Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years, and our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
I'm going to have you guys consider here today that everything that you want in regards to you is stored in your identity of tomorrow, in the future. Right? And so the problem is we're caught up so much in this loop of doing right here is that we're never focusing on what? The loop of being. Right? There's a separate loop that I have to be running, which I'll talk about, which is the loop here of being. So what does that mean? I'll talk about this before in the past, but it's a little deeper. So I got to also remember, like, who do I got to become? Who is a person that handles freedom perfectly fine? And so that's kind of what I got to work on. It's not about do they make their dials or not. It's about who are they on the inside where they make their dials or call their clients back or whatever it is without anybody watching. That's where the secret sauce is and what we do and how we got to get there. The challenge is kind of difficult, right? And so when I have you guys consider today, I'm going to show you a way to kind of tactfully do that we can kind of move you over with in regards to getting out of that. Because what we're going to do, I'm going to teach you guys how to borrow from the identity of tomorrow today. Does that make sense, y'all?
Yeah.
What are you hearing so far?
You gotta behave in the habits of the person that you want to be, the person that you want to become, or that being.
That word she used is very key. Behave, right? I have to have behavior consistently in regards to the person I want to be tomorrow. And that's really, and here's the thing, you don't really want to be the person tomorrow, you just want to be the person that get the 99% of shit you want right here, right? I don't really care about who I am, I used to not. Until I really had this aha moment with this stuff is like, the reality is, what's the behavior of here? Okay, and so part of it is, how do I teach them? That's why some people will crush the 9-day challenges, and the next day, what do? They fall back off because they go right back to the old identity. And so part of what we have to do here, and part of what I think what we do very good here is help change identities. If you look at, first walked in the door here, guess what? Totally different people physically, the way they talk, the way they act, all those things you have to change. Why? Because your new identity is what? Do you feel different? Do people, when you go back home, do people say things to you that you're being a little different?
Well, number one, I used to get my hair just completely buzzed in my old job, and now I actually look like a little bit older, and they're like, damn, you know, nice haircut you got there, son. Dress different, just talk to people completely different, to where, and have different conversations as far as when I get home, everybody was asking me about work, you know, just tell them a little bit about what we do and how we work.
Can they tell a difference when they talk to you?
Oh, 100%.
Right? You see my point? And so that's kind of the thing. Baron, what about you?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. You know, me starting. I don't know, man. I mean, you know, we all know. I mean, I think Barrett was here when I was here. Ren, she's not here today. Randy, Jeremy. I mean, y'all saw me when I first came in here. It's just crazy. You know how much I've grown.
Well, it's safe to say.
Myself as a completely different person, honestly, man.
Is it safe to say you create a new identity?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if it was by choice.
You mentioned.
I didn't have a choice.
You mentioned to me how your friends, even it's hard for you to connect with friends, right? And so part is understanding, and that's why you see the results change, because what? You have to create that new identity. But here's the thing. Part of this is it's already stored within you. And that's why I'm trying to get you guys to understand. The identity of what you want is stored in you. How do we know? Because you're here. You wouldn't be here wanting these things if there wasn't something inside of you that was stored that you wanted to acquire. Right? You would have been happy in your old other job, whatever the fuck you were doing, just going by through the motions. But you wanted something more. Rather be purpose, fulfillment, happiness, money, whatever. There's something that you were searching for. And so how the challenge is, how do we actually access it? Right? Does that make sense there? And so the reality is, I got to access my talent. And I think I listened to a video this morning, part of my Core 4, from Ray Lewis. And he talked about the number one shocking thing that he ever saw in his career was people with wasted talent. Because they didn't actually take advantage of it from a career perspective, from a longevity perspective of how they did. And so I want to show you guys here of how we're going to take your identity now, right? Which basically has to do with what? Your overall mindset, skill set, right? So I'm going to say mindset skills. So we got mindset skills, which is ultimately, right, same you're talking about, is a way of thinking. Right? So it's how we think now is kind of into both. And that's going to go into your skill set, if I can get the error right, of doing, right? So you got your skills of doing. Does that make sense? So this would be like, this is a big connection with us. It's like here, everybody at the beginning has a different mindset, but guess what? Some people come in here, they're pretty good at sales. They understand influence, they understand emotional IQ. Some people come here, they really suck at it. And so guess what? There's a level here that you got to figure out that got to get you where you want to go. But ultimately, those are going to take you here to where you want to go, which is ultimately the future identity, which has the stored results that you want, right? And it has the overall skill sets, everything that you want overall here. And that's kind of what that makes sense to everybody? And so what I want you kind of to understand what you can do is I want to teach you kind of a way to be able to go here and understand and borrow back, I probably should use a different color here, but whatever, the overall feelings of the future identity. And this is a daily thing I'm going to show you how to do daily, but this is feelings here, sorry. You're borrowing the feelings from your future identity. What do you think, how's that, tell me what you're thinking there. What does that mean?
Like you don't want to be,
This is when shit gets kind of crazy right here and
you're
complicated.
saying you're borrowing from your future person. Like you want to be that confident person. You want to feel like, what is it going to be like when I've got X amount of money in the bank and I'm crushing it? What is it going to feel like to walk into a room of old friends and be the topic of discussion? You know what I mean? Like of how well you're doing. You know, that's kind of like, and then you want that to drive what you're doing today.
Yes.
You know?
They did to get there.
Yeah, and then you can also kind of go backwards as well of, dude, I need to fucking get my shit together.
Say that first thing you said again. That you said you're going to borrow what? You said something about that? You said, what's it feel like to be there?
Yeah.
So many people come through here and you get beat up in the beginning. You're so focused and you're so stuck in understanding like what it's like and it's painful. Right? I just all the time, what's it going to visualize when I have this? What's it going to feel like when I get this? For me, it's like, what's it going to feel like when I can pay my bills and be safe and feel like I'm safe again? What's it going to feel like with $10,000 in the bank? What's it going to feel like with $30,000 in the bank? What's it going to, and it keeps growing because you keep growing your identity, right? I remember thinking to visualize, I used to have that Maserati I had on my screensaver on the back of my computer screen for like 2 years. And I was like, what's it going to feel like to get a Maserati? And I kept looking at it and feeling it, I touch it and feel what it's driving like. It ultimately created that person from ahead into now, ultimately have learned the hard way. There's a lot easier ways to do that. Does that make sense? And so I want to take the way, like Tiffany said, the way it feels. But I want you guys to understand, this is a big kind of aha for me, is how much time do I spend here visualizing what my future identity is?
You need to be spending more time doing that.
Yep.
Vision boards in the room. Dan and I have like a vision board. We talk about it all the time. It's not like dreaming, because then I've gotten this with my mom being around. She's a very like victimized, like this happened to me, this happened to me.
Yep.
You guys are just daydreaming. Like, why do you want to go see that house? It's $500,000. You know, not that she's like nice, but she's just like, you guys are, you know, it's always like something, and we're just like, because then when we're there, how are we gonna know that I went to swing in the back in the pool and the this,
Right.
you know, and stuff like that. So it's just like a different mindset that we put ourselves in, that I never tapped into before.
100%. Who else? What else you got? Tell me what else. Did we get my charger out my office in there? Yeah. Who else? So what I want to do, if anybody else has that, is basically whatever you're lacking in your life right now, and this is deeper than vision board. That's what I was trying to get at with my Maserati. If I spent so much time focusing on the Maserati, I didn't focus enough on the being of who I had to be.
Yeah.
What does that person look like? What do they talk like? What do they say? What would they say to me? And here's the thing, it's already in your head in regards to who you are from your identity standpoint. You've got to find that, right? And so part of that is here. I want you to ask yourself 3 main questions, right? Number 1, and this is where we're going to visualize part of yourself. Number 1 is going to be when. And the question is, when are you going to acquire this way of thinking? When are you going to acquire this way of thinking? What do you think that means? Like, what's the deadline of how you're going to be at that level of thinking? Here, Joe.
Oh, like 90 days, next year, what do you mean, today? Like, I don't know.
It all depends on what you want, right?
Yeah.
So when am I going to be there and have that? Because I want to understand when that is, because it's important to ask yourself 3 main questions. When am I going to acquire that way of thinking? And so part of it's going to be understanding, there's 2 ways to look at this too, is when am I going to spend time growing myself every day? Like Paul's example last night was at when? 9 o'clock at night to 1:30 at night. Because I'm never going to change the way I think until I focus on what? I'm never going to change the way I think until I focus on what? It's super simple.
Changing the way you think.
Changing the way I think. I'm never going to change the way I think until I focus on changing the way I think. It's very important for you guys to understand why, because I never spend enough time changing the way I think in regards to visualization of that person, because I'm going to teach you in a way you can really look forward to yourself and borrow advice from yourself. Because deep down you know what to do sometimes, what we don't do. What we know we should do because we're not in tune enough with our voice on the inside. And so that's the first part of that. So part of this is I have to understand when daily am I going to acquire this way of thinking. And I'm going to tell you, then this is kind of one you got to schedule, kind of like core 4. Okay? When am I going to get my way of thinking and kind of get into myself? Number 2 question is going to be how. I'm going to ask myself one main question. How would I feel when? How would I feel when? So, how would I feel when all my bills are paid up for 14 straight months and I got X amount of money in the thing? What do we not do? We don't ever get attached to the feeling of what we want to get to. We only get attached to the thing. And so the more that we can get attached to that feeling of what we want to get to, the more power we're going to have, the more we're going to get there. Right? What's it going to feel like when I buy my first house? What's it going to feel like when I buy my second house? What's it going to feel like when I buy my first investment property? What's it going to feel like when I buy my first multifamily property? What's it going to feel like when I get that new Mercedes, whatever it is? And this can be all the way through all 4 areas of life. The number one, easiest one that most people want to take care of first is obviously business, because nothing else matters. You can't pay the bills and have money in the bank and feel comfortable, right? It's really hard to have a great relationship if you don't have the bills paid. It is what it is, right?